What's up, y'all? What is up? What is up? What is up, you guys? Hey, Visha, how you doing today? How you doing today? I pray that all is well. I wanted to get on here to release this revelation that God gave me. I wanted to get on here to release this revelation. And so on our declaration, hey, Mrs. Welker, our declaration is going to be break the cycle. And I know, some people, when they hear that, you may think of like certain things. You may think of generational strongholds or whatever the case may be. I am doing pretty good, Visha. I am doing pretty good. And so, again, our title, our declaration is break the cycle. God was dealing with me. This happened a little bit earlier. I was taking my puppy to use the restroom, and I'm not going to say exactly. God has given me a strategy around like the apartment complex. You guys know that Capone is a registered service dog he's a registered service dog. So I was taking him to use the bathroom, and I try to just, take them out when no one is here, when no one is, when it's not a lot of traffic in the area, which it rarely ever is. But I had a moment where he was just out and he would not use the bathroom, and I started to freak out because, I'm going to be transparent. When that happened with the violations the first go around, it really, put me, on edge. So it made me feel like I was walking on pins and needles. And so the enemy would oftentimes, trigger me in that aspect. And it would be, now I'm freaking out over and over and over again. And so that kind of happened maybe a few minutes ago. And I came immediately to God before. I was tempted to respond the same way I have in the past, but I ran to God. And what the Lord told me was, he said, not only was this a false alarm, but this was an opportunity for you to break the cycle, because I think that it was people from the apartment complex. I don't know. They could have been residents. But nevertheless, what God was telling me was, I've put you, in a position to where you can experience this and respond differently. And so he began to highlight the revelation of I don't care what anybody says, when you go through a struggle season, when you go through a traumatic season, we develop defense mechanisms and self-preservation mechanisms, to protect ourselves. And so I want you guys to think about, what your triggers were in the old seasons, the things that traumatized you, because a lot of times in the confines of a new season, the devil will try to bring similar situations around to make you to get that same fearful response, right? Hey, Sabrina, I'm going to say it again for everybody on here. In your season, your Job season, your process, your wilderness, whatever you want to call it, for many people, there were things that you endured during that season that jarred you. It triggers you, right? And there were certain responses that you had to certain things that you went through. Let's just say the devil attacked your money, right? Or something happened let's just say he attacked your money. Let's just say in the old season, your first mindset would be, let me not pay my tithes so that I can have enough, right? And so even though you knew that was not right, it was a response rooted in fear that you felt you had to do to survive that season, right? So even in the confines of a new season, you may notice some things happening that remind you of something that you've already gone back. And our temptation is to always respond the same way that we responded in that traumatic season. We have what I call I don't know if y'all have ever, I don't want to speak this over anybody, but I know a few years ago when I was in a car wreck, for a while, I was triggered. So I was hit on the driver's side, the driver's back. And so it would be every single time I was driving, if there was if I felt there was a, what am I trying to say? It's if I felt there was a, car that looked like it was coming at that same angle that the car hit me on, it would automatically I would tense up, right? And I would maneuver however I felt I needed to maneuver to not go through that again. I was a little bit traumatized. And so in our as the seasons shift, the devil counts on those things still being triggers. He counts on us responding rooted in fear. And when you really think about our responses to a lot of the false fires, a lot of the things that we've gone through, a lot of times it ends up getting us into self-created storms because we're moving in fear. and not faith. And so the revelation that God gave me was that even in this season where he's restoring us, in this season where, some of us are still encountering certain attacks. But what the Lord was telling me is that, like, in this season, he's giving us, as these things happen, he's giving us the opportunity to break the cycle and to respond from a faith-based perspective rather than a perspective that says, I'm afraid of going through what I went through before. Am I making sense? Am I making sense? I hope that I broke that down in a way that you guys can get. But that was the revelation that God gave me. Like, even he told me, you don't need to be afraid of, like, people seeing Capone, because he is a registered support animal, meaning he is protected by the federal law. But that traumatized me, like what happened earlier this year, a few months ago. And so, like, I had to take some time to, like, really just calm down. And that was the revelation that I got. Like, as things happen that remind you of what you've already gone through, like, it behooves you to, like, get yourself into a position where you don't respond the same way. And a lot of times breaking the cycle looks like taking a deep breath, taking a pause, and running to God, which was exactly what I did. Because our first temptation, when the devil presents things, circumstances, situations that remind us of what was traumatic for us to go through and come out of, the greatest temptation is going to be to respond the same way that we know how to respond. And so when it's all said and done, what God was really telling me is that faith is what will move that mountain for many of us. Faith is what will move that mountain, that is rooted in fear, that is rooted in triggers, that is rooted in trauma in this season. And so that was the word that he wanted me to release to you guys. Break the cycle. Respond differently in this season. Because we are in a brand new season. We have been, hey, Miss Jennifer, we have been in a brand new season all month long. And so that was the word that he gave me, like, break the cycle. As things happen, like, you can look at it from a fear-based perspective, which tells you to respond a certain way, or you can look at it from the perspective of gleaning from what you went through in the past and saying, God, I'm going to respond by faith this time around. And so that is the word. And so if you can receive this, and for those of y'all just now coming in, please watch this broadcast from the very beginning. It's maybe like about 9 minutes long. And so that is it, y'all. That was the word that God gave me to share. We did get the light bill taken care of. It came out this morning. And so I had to update you guys and tell you guys that. And so that is it, you guys. That is the word. As always, if you feel led to sow, you can sow. Whether, you're sowing, sow whatever God leads you to sow. But the seed title is Break the Cycle. And so that is it. I love y'all. I am rooting for you guys. And so until next time, y'all. Peace.